Thank you.
Is it started? I don't see start.
We've just started. Thank you so much.
Great.
Oh,
Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll just give it another minute or so as people trickle in. All right. So hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Solutions Challenge webinar. I'm Shana Horowitz, and I'm so glad that you're here and interested in learning more about this initiative. To orient you to how we'll use the time together today, here's a quick preview of our agenda. First, I'll give some context on the exchange. Then I'll pass things over to my colleague, Elif Mina, who will moderate a panel with several of our challenge reviewers. She'll then walk us through more details and specifics about the challenge. And then my colleague, Wyatt, will moderate a Q&A. We'll have ample time to answer questions live, but if you've already got a question that you'd like to add to the queue, please feel free to just type it in the chat at any point. So the New York Climate Exchange is a new nonprofit organization on a mission to accelerate climate solutions. We do this work by working with a lot of different people. We have a lot of different partners from academia to community organizations, industry, and government, because at the heart of what we do is unprecedented inclusive collaboration, which we really believe is required to make real impact on climate. And we employ a wide range of interventions in the work that we do. So education, training, convening, tech incubation, that's all within the scope of how we work. And lastly, we deliver on our mission through a physical campus, which is coming to Governor's Island in 2029. And that campus will provide a really unique physical environment to bring this work to life in the heart of New York City. And that's really what this challenge is focused on. So as I previewed just a moment ago, at the Exchange, we are committed to a multi-stakeholder model and to working really collaboratively. So we have a network of over 40 partner organizations working with us, from universities to global corporations to frontline groups serving communities to labor unions and cultural institutions. And the hub that we are designing on Governor's Island will allow these different partners to be co-located as we drive forward the development of different climate solutions. So that sort of being in the same space together, doing this kind of work is really key to what we're after. So with an eye towards the areas with the biggest levers and opportunities for positive climate impact, our programming is really focused on the 5 topics you see on the left hand side of the screen. So built environment, community resilience and health, financial solutions, energy and carbon management, and oceans. And the way that we work at the Exchange really allows us to make broad progress on these issues so we can employ the power of education, of research, workforce development, tech incubation, and again, even arts and culture as part of the work that's ahead to really make an impact on climate change. So our climate hub on Governor's Island will really be the physical embodiment of our approach. When it opens in 2029, the hub will be a living laboratory that fosters cross-sector collaboration and really lends itself to being this unique enabling environment for climate solutions to reach their full potential. And that's really why we're so excited to bring you all into this process through the challenge and to help bring this campus to life. So here you can see a map of Governor's Island and the location of our future hub. The hub itself that we're building is going to feature mass timber, so 2 commercial buildings to totaling 140,000 square feet. That's going to be the New York City's first large-scale structure made from mass timber, which is certainly an exciting milestone for the city. It'll also include adaptive reuse of historic buildings. So Liggett Hall, we're taking over a portion of that and going to be renovating that for our purposes. And then there's a lot of infrastructure. So for us, it's important to look at the kind of green infrastructure potential of this project, ranging from landscaping, of course, waterfront upgrades, climate resilient systems like solar and geothermal are all part of the picture of what we're building. And the hub itself, in terms of what it will include and how it's going to deliver on some of the activities that I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a large convening center at the heart of the building. There'll be research and education facilities, including labs, exhibition and demonstration spaces, and also classrooms. There'll be housing, so there'll be an opportunity for some undergraduate students, faculty, staff, and researchers to actually be full-time living on the island for a period of time. And then there'll also be outdoor public spaces and public amenities. So that brings us to the Sustainable Solutions Challenge, which is an invitation really for you to propose solutions that align with our mission and could enhance the campus design. This is really both a proving ground to test cutting edge solutions and also a commercial opportunity for you to deploy in a highly visible setting. So we're sort of, no idea is too wild, but we are interested ultimately in things that are going to be implementation ready alongside our timeline of being open and operational by 2029. So we're excited to have participants apply across these 4 different focus areas that you see up on the screen. The first category is built environment and design, which focuses on things like circular or carbon negative materials, coatings, air quality systems, and novel ways to foster a sense of health and well-being for the users and the visitors of the campus. The second category is infrastructure and resource efficiency, which includes opportunities across energy, water, waste, and from enabling energy independence on the island to managing stormwater, converting waste into energy, and leveraging predictive analytics for building management. Again, the possibilities are quite broad in that category. The third category is all about resilient ecosystems and landscape design, such as shading to combat extreme heat, measures to enhance biodiversity on the island, and approaches for emergency preparedness and extreme weather. Lastly, we have the wildcard category. Maybe you've got a concept that doesn't sit squarely within one of these predefined categories, something like carbon capture or a multimodal transit system for people to get around the island, or a new way you're envisioning engaging visitors as they move through the outdoor and indoor spaces of the campus. We want to hear from you. That was really intentional that we have this wildcard category. All right, before I hand it over to Elif Mina for the panel, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible, really world-class team that we've put together who is working to bring this campus to life over the next several years. It's important really in the context of this challenge because selected teams will have the opportunity to engage with experts from all the companies that you see reflected here on this slide, and also that broader coalition of partners and practitioners that we're engaging both for this challenge and that are formally part of the coalition of the exchange. So it's a really diverse and powerful team that is driving forward this vision around innovation in urban development. And again, we're really excited to open that up and to have other people join us on that journey. So I'm going to hand things over to Elif Mina, and I'm going to see you back on screen towards the end of the session for the Q&A. And again, open invitation to keep adding questions even during the presentation portion here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Thanks for that overview. So today we have 3 reviewers with us on our panel, and I'm so excited to introduce Carrie, Yelena, and Angela. You'll see them pop up on the screen shortly, and you know, they are gracious to spend an hour with us this morning to help us understand a little bit about, you know, their background, their role on the project, you know, what excites them about sustainability in this field, what excites them about this project, what they're looking for from the applicants and things like that. So maybe we could just get started with a brief kind of overview of your background, your experience, your current role, and what you're working on the New York Climate Exchange project. Carrie, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here today. Maybe on a brief introduction of myself, I am a partner at SOM. I'm an architect by training, and I have a unique role within our firm to lead our technical design group globally, and also co-lead with another partner of mine, our sustainability engineering studio. So I am sort of situated in between 2 unique areas of expertise that are very relevant to this particular project, which is so exciting for me. It means in many ways, a lot of my time is focused on helping guide our design and architecture teams to coordinate directly on the engineering side to really realize what is big ambition for this project, and am defining with the team parameters around not only what we need to incorporate from a design perspective, but how that carries through in construction. And at the end of the day, how is the building operated so that in particular, the net positive energy goals can be realized. So that's just part of my role on the project. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Yelena, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. My name is Yelena Zoltarevskaya. I'm a project manager for the landscape side for the New York Climate Exchange. My role has really been thinking about the resiliency and the future-facing climate resiliency, specifically of the landscape for the climate exchange. So what that has meant in terms of design is a focus on waterfront resiliency. So here we're talking about rising sea level rise, more frequent storms, and thinking about how our shoreline edge can face those challenges and be resilient in the future. But we're also thinking about resiliency for the uplands. So in that case, we're really looking at, you know, storms are increasing, that, you know, air temperatures are getting hotter. How can we create a resilient urban tree canopy for this site that will survive the next 100 years? So we're looking at more southern states. We're looking at some innovations in horticulture and botany to see what we can plant, how we can create a resilient landscape, and how the New York Climate Exchange can really be kind of a future forward campus and be a model for other projects in the region to see how they can plant, have a landscape that's beautiful, that's viable, that's public facing, but also resilient to climate changes. So I'm excited to talk to you all.
Angela, you're on the construction side. Can you give us a brief overview of your background, experience, and what you lead for the project?
Sure, of course. Good morning. My name is Angela Iraldi. I am the sustainability manager for the NYC Metro region with Skanska, and we are the construction managers for the project. My background is in both architecture and engineering, actually, and I started my career doing a lot of HVAC commissioning. which is actually what inspired me to get deeper into sustainability, because I would go into these projects that were marketed as, super sustainable, and I would see systems like not working, systems running 24/7, and just a slew of other things. And I just saw an enormous waste of energy. So that really inspired me to kind of work more holistically with teams to implement sustainability from design and through construction and operations. So that's what I strive to do on the Skanska side. And I'm super excited that we have the opportunity to do that on this project.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we can chat briefly about sort of kind of the current state of practice as you guys see it from your different perspectives. We have architecture, engineering, landscape, construction. Kind of what is, the state of practice right now in sustainable built environment? Maybe what excites you the most of the things that you're working on, things that inspire you to try to implement them in new projects, or also it could be, what are some of the barriers that you're seeing to implement some of these really fantastic ideas into projects? Because I have seen it's not easy to implement sustainable solutions into projects.
Maybe I'll start because I have one that I'm also very excited about, but is also I'm finding there's quite a bit of barriers. So we're looking into scientific research for bringing back the American chestnut to the island. So that is a tree that's been part of our ecosystem, historically, and about 100 years ago was decimated by blight. So there's been a lot of scientific research to bring back this tree as a native tree for our ecosystem. And what we're finding is that the science behind this endeavor isn't quite ready for prime time. So there's a tension between wanting to tell the story, wanting to have these trees planted on this project, but also there's a high risk involved in planting them. The science, as with most scientific endeavors, you may succeed, but you may also fail. So it's finding ways to communicate that risk, to communicate that scientific exploration, because these trees are not your typical tree that you think about, a shade tree, beautiful foliage. They have a different story to tell. So I think for me, the thing I'm excited about is an opportunity to really tell those unique stories. This project really has space for that experimentation and that risk taking, which is pretty rare. Most clients want their landscapes to look amazing on day one and no more questions. So I think this is a really exciting opportunity. But it's truly, I think there's a storytelling aspect, and that is the challenge. How do you speak for these trees, for this scientific endeavors? How do you make the public aware of what they're looking at to explain why the trees maybe aren't, 100 feet tall yet? So it's a challenge, but also I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe I could build on what Yelena is mentioning around the sort of current state of practice these days around sustainable solutions that is tied to the science piece. There is so much more transparency around material selections, systems, that I think we all as designers and engineers are benefiting from very directly, because manufacturers are making the information more available to us so that we can make more informed decisions, which I do think is a huge step forward from where we were. It allows us to get closer to a place where we can rely upon certain solutions that really were untested and unknown before. So to me, that we're in an exciting moment where I feel like the amount of information, research, science behind so many aspects of what goes into a building or even landscapes, it's available to us today. I think the challenge becomes, how do you connect the dots on realizing what is the next better performing or healthier solution to try and create? So I guess that's a little bit of what the challenge is that's in front of all of you. I think one of the other sort of the realities of building any building is the cost to do it. And I do think that is something in any sort of novel solution that we have to balance, even, in a design process around the choices we make. to be able to distinguish between what is going to have the greatest impact towards our sustainability goals and the obligations we have as a design and engineering team, which means we can't implement everything. It means we have to be really strategic about it. And I do think for us that is a challenge, and certainly in the ideas that you guys are going to be bringing forward, how can the solutions that you are creating be scalable across the market so that it is at a price point where it can easily be deployed on projects? I think cost is always kind of a barrier and something to think about in terms of the ability for a solution to really have large impact.
Yeah.
And Elavina, if I could just chime in there, just to echo Yelena and Carrie's points. I think we're at an interesting point where we've still got a long ways to go, right? But we really have made progress on kind of going above and beyond ticking the boxes of sustainability. We've made huge strides in terms of transparency within the sustainability space over the years, and we do now have more and more science to back up the things that we are trying to implement. But it's also this interesting, like to Carrie's like cost point, this interesting kind of like strategic and logistics puzzle when we're working on projects like this, right? How to figure out how to scale these sustainability solutions, be cost effective, be replicable, right? So it's an interesting time. We're really truly moving towards things that are regenerative, right? Which is great. But figuring out how to scale those solutions is something that's super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate all those responses. Maybe we can briefly chat a little bit about how, Yelena, you mentioned the American chestnut as an example of what you're trying to bring into this specific project. I'm wondering what, from your perspective, what are some of the ways that this specific project is pushing the boundary on sustainability, or of all the kind of sustainability features that we have that Shayna kind of previewed a little bit in her introduction, what is one of the parts that you particularly find exciting, mass timber, solar, geothermal, the landscape, the shoreline, or some other energy efficiency mechanism. And then I guess kind of the flip side of that, what are you as a reviewer for this challenge kind of looking for? Is there something you're like, oh, I wish we could somehow find a way to get that, into this project, or when you're evaluating kind of applications, what are some things based on your experience in the industry that you're going to look for to evaluate different applications and try to understand, what is more feasible, replicable, scalable, things like that?
Yeah, that's a lot to chew on. And maybe I'll talk about some of the hardscape that we're working on. So I'll move away from the planting and talk a little bit about our paving. And this is something I'm actually learning on this project is I think in the past several years, there's been huge strides in carbon neutral and carbon negative concrete. And I'm personally really excited. We have samples in the office right now of like carbon negative paving, which is, if you told me that 5 years ago that I'll be able to pave a whole campus with something that is carbon negative, I'll be like, no, concrete's like the worst thing. It lasts 1,000 years. So I am seeing like the science actually bearing fruit in the hardscape realm in real time. So if the chestnuts, I'm not going to say they're a cautionary tale, but it's a story that's being told in real time. I think the scientific inquiry into carbon neutral and carbon negative concrete is actually bearing fruit and has products on the market, or maybe just about to be on the market, that I'm really excited to get my hands on and being able to use. So I think for me, what I'm really excited about is like, for a project like this, there's really an opportunity to be, to be frank, to be an open door to the New York market and to really preview this on a very trafficked and a very public campus, right? This is not a small test plot somewhere. This is truly a world-class campus on a very accessible, very public place in the city. So I think for me, what's exciting is about the ability for this project to push scale, that there is a certain scale to this project that I think gives an opportunity to highlight the viability of some of these products. And that's what I'm really excited about, that this is not the size of a test plot. This is a true campus. So I think what I'm looking for, you mentioned like, what am I excited about as a reviewer? I think this idea of scalability, that if there is an idea that can be implemented at the scale of the climate exchange, that would makes me really excited. And we're seeing some companies already out there that have a carbon negative product and that they can supply at scale. And that's super exciting because that was not the case even a couple of years ago, at least for landscape. I think the architects get the good stuff before we do.
Carrie or Angela, either of you.
That was my transition to Carrie.
Fortunate, Yelena, we got it all. I think some of the things that are most exciting to me are tied to our ability to really understand sort of architectural and engineered solutions for the final product that incorporate the thinking behind how is it constructed, what it takes to get the material to the island, which is a unique circumstance, frankly. To be thinking about what are the ways that we could consider pre-assembly or prefabrication or address efficiencies within the construction process to optimize the buildings in all ways is super interesting to me. And I think it's a really great opportunity for us to be working directly with Skanska on a lot of these subjects, because I think being able to demonstrate also different ways of reducing or eliminating waste in construction is an important subject that frankly we don't spend a whole lot of time solving for. We track it, we record it and document volumes and quantities, but having real impact on making change, that's sort of a unique challenge that I'm not sure we fully addressed, with at least within the US market. So that's sort of one thing where I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to demonstrate different techniques and approaches that we can then share externally. I also think one of the challenges around this being on an island means that not only are we needing to select solutions that are appropriate for this particular climate zone and maybe our anticipation of what the future climate zone is, frankly, of this region, but also that it's a marine environment. So the performance criteria is very rigorous in terms of what we need to be delivering for in this project, which makes it even more of a challenge actually than just a typical project. That I think just is a reminder to me that specifically when it comes down to materials, this notion of natural materials being better isn't necessarily always the case, because they may not have a long enough lifespan that really makes it worthwhile when we think about the sort of full life cycle. So anyway, lots of challenging parameters that are so unique to this project, but lots of real opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think we're at a point, unfortunately, where we can no longer just try to mitigate climate change, right? We need to find solutions to both mitigate and adapt to climate change. And, while that's like a slight negative, it's exciting because it's how do we kind of go above and beyond and really get to that adaptability path as opposed to just the mitigation path. And I think with this project, we're using like the Living Building Challenge as the framework and the certification goal for the project, and that certification uses this great metaphor of the flower, right? Like these buildings get their energy from the sun, their water from the sky, nutrients from the earth, all while supporting the surrounding ecosystem. And that's obviously like, an intent and a general larger goal for this project, which, is difficult for urban development projects, plus adding on the island piece. But I think it's inspiring because it kind of helps us try to push the boundary for what we can do in urban environments and really look at innovations that I'm really interested in looking at innovations that don't just do less bad, but do more good and can help the next project, right? So like specifically looking at solutions that are, obviously I'm on the construction side, constructible, sourceable, and scalable, So like, can we look at things where we have like different technologies that like tag materials as they go into building and like digitizes that info so that that when that thing needs to be replaced or that we're deconstructing the building, like we have all of the information that we need to get that material to its new home, right? Can we have some sort of like monitoring systems that track, I don't know, real time like carbon sequestration in our soils, landscapes, and our materials, right? Are there things that can help us on like to understand the larger supply chains and when we're sourcing materials and how we can kind of track that information and social equity through a product's life cycle to help us inform the materials that we're selecting. And then of course, obviously I think anything that can help us be better construction managers in terms of waste management, in terms of construction technologies, I'm open ears. So
Yeah, absolutely. I personally really am excited about all the waste related work that we are hoping to achieve on this project. And in general, I think
waste
with
is always a big one. Yeah.
New York, I really am focused on that waste element. Well, I think we're unfortunately out of time, but I thought this was a really, really engaging discussion, and I appreciate all the thoughtful responses that you all provided to some of these questions. And you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the session, or if you have other commitments, I completely understand if you have to hop off. I'm going to quickly jump into talking a little bit about the logistics of the challenge, and then we'll open it up for any Q&A from the audience. And I know from our reviewer team, Allison, from our Coming development partners, and also Carrie's coworker, Sigal, are here. They were at our last info session as attending as well, and they will be there for the Q&A to help us with any technical questions that may come up. So I think if you can go to the next slide, I'll just breeze through quickly the challenge details and timeline. So we've already kind of talked about what we're looking for, but we're looking for diverse solutions, technologies, materials, furnishing, software. This is really critical. We are looking for proposals that align with existing New York City building and fire codes. Special testing and permitting, we can review on a case-by-case basis, but we are already halfway through design development phase, so we do not have the time to really push anything new through the building code, which again is, I guess, a reason why the built environment hasn't seen that much innovation as other places, but it's the reality we're working with. And we are looking for solutions that seamlessly complement the existing design. This is again because we are already in design development. We can't rethink the entire solar canopy at this point. We are looking for market-ready solutions that are beyond research and development phase. So we are okay if there are no customers yet. We are happy to be the first customer, but we need a solution that's ready for that first customer. And then hoping to have mission alignment and a goal for a tangible impact. So, the selected solutions, as Yelena mentioned, this is a very, very public, large-scale campus project in the heart of New York City. So it's high visibility, globally recognized. And so ideally, a selected solution will have the opportunity to show everybody, oh, look, this is my first customer. This is how it works. This is a proof of concept, and hopefully scale and replicate from there. You'll be able to engage with policymakers, industry leaders, researchers, both through the reviewer process, but also through our programming on Climate Week 2025 in September, and other public events where we're hoping to bring people together to talk about these solutions, and then obviously collaborate with experts like Carrie, Yelena, and Angela, and others on getting your solution to be, constructible, fit with the design, engineering, architecture of the project. Next slide. So our timeline, we launched it at the end of February. So all of March and April, we're open to accept submissions. This is the second info session we are hosting. We had another one in March. Both of them are recorded and available on our YouTube channel. We will be doing an initial screen of submissions for compatibility in May. That is, that piece about regulatory framework, the permitting, mission alignment. And then June and July, reviewers will evaluate submissions. In August, we'll begin to kind of have communication with finalists. And then September is when Climate Week happens in New York City, and we really want to feature the finalists of this challenge during that Climate Week programming we have on Island. And the broader kind of timeline is that, as I mentioned, we're in the design development phase right now. Our construction will begin in Q3 2026, so next year in October, and then construction will end Q3 2029. So 3-year construction period, and we're hoping to engage with finalists throughout those 3 years to then hopefully have them permanently or temporarily incorporated into the project in one way or another. You can download our info package. The info package is very comprehensive, has a lot of information about the project, from engineering systems, frequently asked questions, more on our sustainability certificates. You can download that. I think it has a bunch of appendixes, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 appendices. And there's also the application instructions themselves that give more information about our project. And then you can submit your application through, you can either scan the QR code, or all of this is also linked on our website. And you can see the website link at the bottom of the page here. So again, our webpage includes the info package, as I mentioned, 8 appendices, the instructions, and the application form is designed to be relatively brief. So I think if you can go to the next slide, we are hoping to kind of use existing materials that you have to evaluate your solution. So we don't want you to create new things. This is not an RFP from the city or an RFEI. So we just want, briefly information about your solution, technical and feasibility details, impacts, mission alignment, scalability. If you have them, supporting materials, like if you have a presentation deck you share with investors or others, you can put that in there. And then acknowledgement agreement. So it's hopefully meant to be brief. So even if this is the first time you're hearing about this, you would still have time to apply by May 1st. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Wyatt, who's going to help us moderate the Q&A. I think there are already some questions trickling in the chat, I believe, but I think when I was speaking, somebody also had raised their hand, so definitely feel free to ask a question using the Q&A function.
Thank you so much, Elifmina, and thank you so much for our panelists and reviewers for participating. I really enjoyed it, and I think the attendees did as well. There are a few more questions that we've yet to answer. I'm going to ask Carrie to answer the first one live. Rebecca Bright asks, are you interested in exploring further solar for the rest of the hub beyond the proposed solar? Carrie, would you feel comfortable addressing this?
Sure, and hopefully I can answer more specifically. So I think, as was mentioned, the design strategy around PVs that we're incorporating at the canopy are pretty far along in their development. But I would say, because we are currently in the process of establishing the specifics around our vertical enclosure systems and many other opportunities within the building, that for sure, if there are other solar strategies for us to consider, we would welcome that.
Thank you so much. Another attendee asks, I think Yelena, maybe you're the best suited to answer this. Can you share more about the plans for the waterfront design? Is MNLA exploring a seawall?
Yeah, great question. So we have a very hybrid approach for the waterfront design. Our main idea is to pull the edge of the waterfront back, which allows us to create a stone revetment, which would absorb and disperse tidal energy in the event of a storm. That pulling back also allows us to create a wetland at the waterfront edge with a breakwater. And we are extending a small portion of the seawall. So all that is to say, we have all waterfront technologies in play. We have a revetment, we have a seawall, we have a breakwater. It's a very hybrid engineered solution for this site.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Yelena. We don't have any open questions at the minute. Again, I encourage attendees to use the Q&A function or our chat to ask any questions, which we will address over this call. If you can think of questions later, or if you have, if we somehow miss, I encourage you to reach out to our email at ssc@nyclimateexchange.org, and we will respond there as well. I see there's an.
Go ahead.
We have a few prepared Q&A questions that I think is good general knowledge about the challenge. For example, will applicants retain their intellectual property rights for the innovation? Yes, applications will retain the intellectual property of their technology. However, by submitting, you agree to allow us to review, evaluate, and discuss your proposal for the purposes of the open call. I see there's a few more questions in the chat. Can you please repeat?
Recycling, does one of our reviewers want to chat briefly about the Blackwater recycling? Is that to be considered? How about potable water use? I have the answer, but I thought maybe somebody.
Sure. I could talk a little bit about irrigation system. Our irrigation system is all reclaimed water from the rooftops. We are not using any potable water for our irrigation plants. I think, Alefmina, you would be best to talk about the Blackwater system.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I can speak to it, Alefmina.
Perfect.
Oh, great. Hi, Allison.
Hi, sorry. I've been
to bear the bad news.
Yeah, I've been lurking in the back. Hi everyone, I'm Allison with SOM. So our project team started pursuing full living building challenge, which included the water pedal, which is basically a regenerative system of closed loop black water treatment plant. And so we have gone through this very rigorous design process of saying, okay, we want to keep all of our water on site. We want to reclaim as much water. We want to use the storm water. And then as we slowly peeled back the layers of that onion of logistics, cost, NYC permitting, and what that means if you have urban ag on your site. And then we were like, what if we did it island wide? And of course, that means more stakeholders and more discussions and economics of, does this make sense? And ultimately what we came with is what we've kind of landed on is our buildings will be Blackwater treatment ready to hook up if ever there is a Blackwater treatment plant that comes on site within the island-wide approach. So we do have reclaimed water piping through the buildings, but at this time we're not going to go after full water pedal due to it just doesn't make sense. And I think, as you've heard the panelists say today, is like we really considered a lot of things, and if it didn't make sense, just even if it's as sustainable as it goes, we don't include it in our project. So I hope that answers your question. Great question.
Thank you so much for that, Allison. There's another question on a related note of waste recovery from water and food waste for the purposes of in situ food production. Elifmina, would you mind addressing this?
Yeah, I was gonna, ask our panelists actually to address it. I just marked it as like, let's answer it live. So I don't know if anybody wants to chat a little bit about our waste recovery goals. We are hoping to be a true zero waste facility. So that is a certification we're going after, which means that we are very interested in all waste recovery mechanisms that are out there. Including just reducing waste before it occurs, all the way to, not wasting construction materials as some of the panelists have talked about. But I don't know if any of the panelists have any other thoughts on the waste recovery question.
I'll just add a little bit about the food production piece. We do have a requirement within the Living Building Challenge framework of urban agriculture. So there's a small percentage of the site that is dedicated to food production. So this area of the site, we would have agricultural soils and we would have maintenance that, you know, we would have produced food that's edible for either the students of the exchange or the general public. So I think if there is an opportunity to think about that production piece more sustainably, we would definitely welcome it.
The other thing I would add to this is we've thought about waste, like as an internal team, we've thought about there's an institute called the Rich Earth Institute where they take urine and recycle it back into agriculture additive because it's really rich in nutrients. And so we have considered all different types of waste and how could we apply it to this setting. And again, like some of these solutions make sense and some of them don't. So we really holistically tried to uncover every rock in the waste stream to be able to use and reuse on site.
Yeah, and tying it back to, I think the question about the Blackwater also was asking about potable water reuse. We are doing that, right? Or how maybe Allison, did you
Yeah.
refer to the potable
Yes.
portion?
So we're not doing potable water at this time. I think we're using some of it maybe. We're too early in our water balance calculations to really understand to answer that question transparently at this point because we're still trying to figure out what we need and what we have. So,
Okay.
but we are considering it.
And I'll just quickly mention with the water piece, because we've been struggling with that with irrigation. New York City has pretty strict Department of Health guidelines about where you can use potable or non-potable water, I should say, and the treatment requirements to be able to use water in a public realm. So if there's any ideas or thinking around that, that would be very welcome because right now there's just Department of Health regulations that really limit the possibilities of reusing non-potable water, at least in the landscape, I would say.
Yeah.
Think to that attendee and their question, or encourage them to submit an application and allow us to think about how we can potentially integrate their solution in this big question. Another attendee asked a question regarding their solution, which is a tunable thermal energy storage for flexible, resilient heating and cooling. I'm not exactly certain what this solution is alluding to, but their question is whether we would be interested in demonstrations that would represent permanent infrastructure. Allison, do you mind if I ask you to address this?
Oh God. Carrie, I saw you shaking your head, so you might know more about this. I am not an engineer by any means. And Burrell Happold is our engineer and they're excellent. I think we're open to any infrastructure on display. I think we are we want these proposals. We want to push Burrell Happold if this seems like a applicable solution. So yes, I think I don't know enough about it to be like, oh, this doesn't meet what our building design is right now. Of course, it needs to have compatibility because we're pretty far into our design, but submit it and like let us say yes or no versus like not like even seeing it, you know, because just having one idea leads to the next and the next, and we end up with a really great building because of that.
Yeah, maybe I'll just echo what you're saying, Allison. I mean, we have thought through so many different scenarios around sort of right sizing the solutions for this particular project, and there's always something we haven't uncovered. So, you know, currently in the project, we're incorporating geothermal systems just as like one point of reference. We're looking at optimizing all of the MEP systems within the buildings themselves. If there's opportunity for thermal storage, and I mean, what also is exciting to me is the idea of like, you know, networking some of these things. Again, whether or not the project can support more robust solutions like that, you know, is not I'm not sure we could answer it entirely at this time, but the opportunity to be able to explore some of those ideas, totally worth pursuing. So I would encourage it.
Thank you so much, panelists. And again, very much encouraging all attendees to submit their application and allow it and be creative in these potential integrations and allow us the same. Another question along the lines of food and wastewater recovery for in situ food production. Attendee asked, do we have any insights on food waste treatment and potential integration with wastewater recovery for in situ food production? Panelists, does anyone feel comfortable coming off mute and addressing this question?
I don't know if I understand the question. Food waste treatment.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely want to minimize our food waste. We want to minimize, you know, we want to minimize on the front end the waste that occurs, and also whatever waste does occur, we want to try to have a circular solution to incorporate it back into whether that's you know, compost or urban ag, so things that we're doing on campus. But I guess I also am not entirely clear what the question is, but I would echo Wyatt that we would be interested in hearing about your solution. If you have a solution that relates to food waste, water waste, food production, like definitely submit it because we're interested in these topics.
Yeah, and I would say there's Earth Matter is on island, and so we intend to partner. We're already considered partners, but we intend to partner with them for our organic waste stream in order for them to take that and turn it into compost, and hopefully have that exchange back and forth of like, hey, our site needs compost in these areas for these beautiful plantings that Yelena has designed. So we see it as a circular kind of system on island between entities for sure.
Thank you so much, Elifina and Allison, for answering that. For more context on Earth Matter, I've added a link to their website in the chat. So Youngshin Chen, please feel free to check them out and see if there's any integrations that would be possible. One of the attendees asked if we confirm the location of the building. To the left side of Yankee Pier, facing the island from Brooklyn. Important to know if the solution is addressing the waterfront design. I am pretty comfortable saying that yes, this is on the east side of the island, to the left side of Yankee Pier, facing Brooklyn, where the new construction and commercial buildings will be built, and to the north of that, where there will be adaptive reuse of Liggett Hall. Panelists, anything I'm missing about the location of these buildings that would be important for this applicant?
I'll just quickly add that we are facing Buttermilk Channel, which is an active shipping channel. So the currents are pretty strong and the bathymetry of the seabed floor gets pretty deep very quickly. So we do have a slightly challenging site in terms of our waterfront and what is actually possible on our waterfront when you think about safety of people getting in the water, probably not the right place to do that because of that shipping channel that is our front door. So I just want to add that one piece.
Thank you so much. There are no open questions in the chat, so I'm going to go over about 2 or 3 of our pre-prepared frequently. Is the existing seawall concrete of seal? Sorry, one last question along with the seawall questions, Yelena, if you're comfortable answering.
It is a masonry block system. So it's large masonry stones that are stacked. Right now, that is the existing seawall.
Thank you so much.
But we are breaking it at some part of it, right? And
we are
doing a concrete backer wall at the back, or
That's right. So to reinforce the existing seawall in front of our site, because we are elevating portions of it, we're introducing unreinforced concrete backer wall, which essentially stabilizes the structure of the existing seawall. So we are modifying the existing seawall in portions along our waterfront frontage.
Thank you so much. At this point, we're going to close the audience Q&A. Thank you so much to our panelists who took some time out of their day to answer these questions. I hope the attendees found these useful. I'm going to cover 2 generic frequently asked questions and then go over some important reminders. Firstly, attendees, you are more than welcome to submit more than one proposal. You can also submit a joint proposal with a partner or team. Just be sure to specify in that application what are the roles of different organizations and individuals on the program. And again, moving forward on the slides, this challenge is open to companies globally. You do not have to be local to the New York City region or among our partner network. There is no cost to apply. We will announce these finalists during Climate Week 2025 in September in New York City. And the finalists will work with the Exchange on a rolling basis to explore the next steps for campus integration after this challenge closes. Again, as the potential commercial opportunity. The most important thing I'll say today is that on May 1st at 5 p.m., the challenge will close. The application takes about 10 minutes to fill out. It must be done in one sitting. So please make sure to submit your applications before May 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions about the challenge or at the campus, please feel free to reach out to ssc@newyorkclimateexchange.org. And on our website at www.newyorkclimateexchange.org/sustainable solutions challenge, you'll find more information, a recording of the first info session, a link to the info package, and a link to the application. We very much look forward to hearing from you, and again, encourage you to submit your ideas for integration.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks, everyone.
you.